All right, folks. Let's go ahead and get this show on the road here. Check, check. Hopefully y'all can hear me. Getting over a cold, so my voice is a little bit off today, so hopefully you'll forgive that a bit as we get going here. Let me put on headphones because I can't hear anything. Like, my ears are bad. Basically, I have one good ear. Turn down the music a bit. I have one ear that has an intact tympanic membrane, and right now it's not functioning. There's something plugging it up, so I'm completely deaf. Like, if I didn't have my hearing aid, I wouldn't hear anything. I'd be completely deaf. So I may just put on my headphones and like crank them up really loud so I can actually hear. Like the music in the game, but we'll see. Hope you guys are having a good day, and all that's working out for you. What do I want to talk about today? I don't know. Since it's on my mind, I'll talk a little bit about student debt. This is always like a contentious topic, and I realize that people have I wrote an article on this on my website, so you can read it. It's called The Propagandized View of Debt and Forgiveness. And I realize that people have a very propagandized view of debt and forgiveness. So what I mean by propagandized, propaganda, there's many techniques that are used in propaganda. And the point of propaganda is to get people to think a certain way, to get people to sympathize with one side or demonize another side, to get people in line ideologically. Soviet propaganda would paint, the evil capitalist West as exploitive, and them as something good. Whatever the intellectual directive was, that's the way the propaganda would go. Now the thing is, people look at Soviet propaganda and they think that there's not propaganda happening here. No, that's not the case. We are heavily propagandized here as well. Propaganda is very, very important for maintaining the will of the people towards certain ends, especially if you're managing a state. So propaganda during wartime, it's essential, because if the people don't support the war, ultimately your effort is going to collapse. And we've seen that with things like Vietnam and, of course, the last two foreign invasions we've tried to deal with. So propagandized view of debt. So one of the things that I notice is that as soon as you talk about debt forgiveness, people forget what forgiveness means. So just as an example, if Peter owes Paul $100 and Paul forgives Peter's debt, Peter no longer has to pay Paul $100. Paul then does not have to go rob Mary to have the $100 that Peter owed him. That's not what forgiveness means. It means your debt is wiped away, right? And I notice lots of Christians seem to forget what forgiveness means as soon as you start talking about debt. So if a debtor is forgiven his debt, it's part of the Lord's Prayer, Our Father, forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. If a lender forgives the debt of a debtor, then the debtor simply doesn't have to pay it back. The lender already, whatever he lent, the money he lent is already gone. It's already spent. He's not spending money by forgiving a loan. It doesn't work that way. He has $0 before he forgave the loan. He has $0 after he forgave the loan, as far as the loan is concerned, right? So when you forgive a debt, that just ends the debt. So if the U.S. government, which holds most student debt, forgave the debt, that would mean that it goes to zero. You do not have to raise taxes to pay the debt. The government doesn't have the money. It's not like they are spending the debt money as part of their budget. They have $0 from the people who can't pay the loan. And the people who have the loan, the debtor, has $0. You forgive the debt. No money has changed hands. Nothing has changed other than you scratch off a line on the balance books. Now, this becomes more important when you understand how the Fed actually creates money and how money's created in the modern economy. There is money created on a printing press. That money is distributed to banks. There's still physical money that forms kind of the base money supply, but most of the monetary supply is done electronically just as a way of accounting. So if a member bank needs money, the Federal Reserve will loan it to them at a low rate, and all they do is credit their account. Now, where does the Federal Reserve get the money? Nowhere. It creates the money. When it credits the account of the member bank, it has created that money. That money didn't exist before, and then it exists in the member bank. Not only that, but if you know your basic monetary theory, that just makes up the first 10% of the money supply. After that, what happens is the member bank takes the loan, and they loan it to someone else. So this is the way that most loans happen. You're probably taught in economics class that you deposit money in a bank, and then the deposits are used to loan money to other people. It's partially true. The truth is most loans are simply proctored by banks, and the money comes from the Fed. And then when the bank is paying down the loan, the money's destroyed. So the money's created when the money's lent, and it's destroyed when the debt is finally paid back to the Fed. It just disappears. That's the way it works. So if you have a mortgage or something, it's not like they collected all the money of the depositors and then they said, okay, we have $300,000 we can lend you because we have $300,000 worth of deposits. What they do is they go, okay, you need to buy a house for $300,000. They get a $300,000 loan from the Fed at 1.5%. They give you the mortgage at 5%, and they keep the difference. They just basically get free money, as much free money from the Fed as they want in order to proctor as many loans. And this has to do with an accounting trick where debt is considered an asset. So when you create a mortgage for $300,000 or something, you now have a loan that has value because it's attached to a house. You own a house, and somebody is paying down that house. So it's counted as an asset which you can borrow against. So of course you can borrow the $300,000 from the Fed because as soon as you borrow it, you have an asset that you've used. You bought something with it. So you have something that is on your books as an asset, which is the debt that you proctored. And so anyway, the way that money ends up working is that $300,000 that you loan to someone gets deposited in another bank. They keep some in reserve. They loan out the rest as a cash. So you end up creating 10 times the amount of money as the deposit cycle goes round and round and round, depositing back into the bank and then going out and being spent over and over again. So about 90% of the money that's in circulation is actually deposits. It's not the money the Fed created. It's not printed even. The Fed just creates the money out of thin air when they loan it to a member bank. And it's kind of a chain. I'm simplifying it a little bit, but anyway, that's the way money's created. So if the federal government owns the loan, it paid for that loan by creating money. So it wasn't like it took somebody's money and somehow they have to pay back depositors with money, right? There's no depositor to pay back. Like that doesn't exist in this scenario at all. So when we talk about forgiveness, let's remember that the word forgiveness means to forgive, not to give, right? It's like, why should we give him $100,000? We're not giving him $100,000. He doesn't have $100,000 before. He doesn't have $100,000 afterwards. He's simply not paying interest on the debt after that. It's like the interest goes away. He loses the debt. And if you're the person who possesses the debt as an asset, what are you losing? If you throw the asset away, you're losing all the interest that you would make on the asset. You're not responsible for the loan, those sorts of things. So anyway, let's remember that with forgiveness. Now, a lot of people, for whatever reason, they're so propagandized with this thing to think, well, the taxpayers will fit the bill. Probably not. And the only case where taxpayers may foot the bill is actually very indirectly. And that would be if you were going to pay down private loans by creating new money. So whenever you create new money, it creates inflation. So if you're going to pay down all the private loans by creating new money, well, that's inflation. That's a tax that we all pay. So the taxpayer would fit the bill, except that the way that accounting works at this higher levels, there's so many debts and so many, there's so many debts on the books that if you were to, put money into the private sector by creating it, you may just end up like canceling out another debt owed somewhere else, like to the Fed or something like that. So there's a lot of money that's just moving from left hand to right hand over and over again when it comes to the way the government finances its debt. So when you hear about government debt, a lot of people don't even know what that government debt really means. It's like debt owed to itself. So the Federal Reserve will buy treasury bonds. You've maybe heard of monetizing the debt. This is what this is. So the Treasury of the United States puts out treasury bonds. The Federal Reserve buys those treasury bonds, and they buy them with money which they created out of thin air. They just credit, they credit the Treasury Department, and then they hold the bonds. Now, do they ever sell the bonds? Back to the government. That's what paying down the debt means. It means you're giving money to the Federal Reserve to get rid of the bonds that the Federal Reserve just holds on to forever. And that actually creates a kind of deflation, because when you pay $100,000 to the Fed, it just disappears because it gets canceled out of the book. So paying down debt or calling in debts, that's actually deflationary. So yeah, you could inflate the currency by paying down debt to private holders, but it actually wouldn't do that if you just forgave the debt if the federal government had it. The money's already in circulation. You're not destroying the money. Then paying down the debts would destroy the money, but you're not paying anybody anything. You're just canceling out the debt owed. So don't forget the meaning of the word forgiveness in this. And the reason I bring this up is people often just kind of leapfrog over any kind of discussion about the student loan debt crisis. And I made a video years ago, back before Trump was elected, on why the crisis is not going away. I made this in 2016. And the reason is because politicians, especially the Democrat Party, are heavily financed by the education sector. They're financed by teachers' unions, obviously, but they're also heavily financed by higher education, which means that there's really no incentive for most people in politics to deal with the crisis, either to forgive the debt or work on eliminating debt or reducing debt for people, or at the very least making the debt dischargeable through bankruptcy. That's a means test. If you physically can't pay the loan, you can't pay it. It's impossible. Just like you can't pay down your credit card debt. You go into bankruptcy and then the loan's eliminated. We don't even discuss things like that because people get so they just immediately go to the propagandized thought pattern that they've been like programmed through repetition to repeat. Oh, the taxpayers fit the bill. How so? Well, you have to pay it with taxes. Why? We're canceling out a debt that the government holds. Nobody has to pay anything. That's what forgiveness means. So we forget the meaning of words as we do that. Is it just to forgive the debt? That's a discussion. Is it just to force a jubilee? A jubilee is another thing. I have actually said, like, hey, let the banks get hosed. Banks can no longer collect it. So the private people who hold the student loans don't get the money. Oh, it was a bad investment. You could have bought stock in some startup that then failed and it went to zero and you lost the money. Sorry, investing in 18-year-olds with no proven track record is irresponsible. It's very irresponsible to give 18-year-olds $100,000. Why would you do that? They have no assets. They have nothing to prove that they are worth $100,000. No credit card would lend them $100,000, and yet we give them $100,000 to go to a university, and then maybe they get a degree at the end of it, and they'll never earn the money back, most of them, because the job market doesn't work the way that it did 30, 40, 50 years ago. A degree does not guarantee you some sort of middle-class income at all. In fact, most of the time the degrees are shams. They don't even teach you what they say they're going to teach you. So anyway, those are the discussions. Is it just to force a jubilee onto a third party? In my opinion, I'm okay with the banks getting hosed. I mean, they get bailed out so often for their own stupid mistakes. Like why would I care that they have to eat a little bit of a bad investment in an 18-year-old? But that's a discussion. So we, rather than having a discussion about the nature of what we need to do, we make universities responsible for the loans. We seize the university endowments, as my friend Brian Niemeyer said. You have the government seize the university endowments, and that pays down the third parties. So the third parties are made whole. The people who loaned the money, I don't necessarily think they ought to be made whole, but if you feel like you need the precious banks to be made whole, you just seize the university endowments because they're selling a faulty product. They're selling it on false promises. It's overinflated. Just like how if you bought a car that doesn't run, you should be able to return it to the car dealer and get your money back. We have lemon laws for reasons. These are things that as soon as we move outside of this propagandized area, it all makes sense. It all makes sense to everybody. So anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about with debt forgiveness. Not necessarily to argue that you should forgive the debt, but we need to be realistic about what that means, and step outside of the propagandized lanes that people get into. Because I know that the left lane, the right lane is no. We shouldn't reward people for irresponsibility. So we have bankruptcy. People end up in bad financial situations for lots of reasons. Besides, they were irresponsible and took out a student loan. They could have cancer and not pay the student loan, right? Are you going to say that they're terribly irresponsible because they're servicing medical debt instead of paying off a student loan? Or they're disabled now, like they break their neck, now they can't pay their student loan? They were very irresponsible to take out that student loan. No, you wouldn't say that. Everybody's situation is different. That's why those things get dealt with in things like bankruptcy court. We understand that there are a multitude of things that cause people to end up in a situation where they cannot service their debt anymore. And I tend to be on the side of having taught at a university and, of course, having attended university. I have no student debt, but I understand where it comes from, and I've dealt with the kids, and I've dealt with the people, and I've dealt with the administration, and I've seen the administration quintuple its budget over the last 20 years. Which is another thing to talk about. It's like, where's all this extra money going to? Well, they just kind of breed new administrators. Everybody gets a promotion, and you add more bureaucracy to the middle. Everybody gets a promotion, add more bureaucracy, and before you know it, the bureaucracy is bigger than the labor that you use to administer the product. This is just an aside. Let me go on this tangent before I play a game here, but this started back 20 years ago when I was. Man, it's hard to think that 20 years ago I was an undergraduate. But yeah, when I was an undergraduate, 20 years ago, tenured professors make a lot of money. Back then they would make over $100,000. And, in 2002 money, it's good money today, and it was good money back then. So when they retired, rather than hiring new full-time faculty, they'd hire 2 adjunct part-time faculty, which they didn't have to pay benefits to. So you could hire, that $100,000 position. You actually could, it was profitable. They had this faculty early retirement program at Fresno State where they would pay professors to retire early. And when they retired early, then you could replace their position with 2 or 3 adjunct professors that you paid $1,500 a semester. I know, because I was one. I was one of those. So yeah, then the cost of education goes up. Well, they're spending less and less on the product per pupil. The money gets eaten up by an ever-increasing bureaucracy on top of that. If you're in the admin, of course you want to get a promotion and get more money. I think Janet Napolitano, who's the head of the UC system, makes $600,000 or $700,000 a year, and that's a lot. But then there's 10 other people right below her that all make $500,000 a year, right? These people are paid huge amounts of money to not do a ton of work. It's a lot of make work. I think it's called, you can look up Parkinson's principle. Your bureaucracies always expand in the middle management area because everybody wants a promotion and to make more money, which means you have to add more people below you, and it gets less and less efficient. It becomes more and more of a trash can, things like that. Anyway, so that's my little spiel for today. Let's go ahead. I don't have any, I'll look at the chat real quick. I don't have any thoughts on Khan Academy because I've never interacted with it. Glad to make it to your live pub gaming stream. Thanks for stopping by. I see people against forgiveness make the responsibility argument. What about responsibility of lenders and advisors telling kids to go to college? Yeah, again, I think a lot of people who have paid off their student debt get really agitated about we need to forgive people's student loans. The people who need the student loan forgiveness can't pay the debt, or they would, right? They're in worse financial situations. Now, it never feels good for you to work hard or to be very disciplined and like pay off a debt, and somebody else just gets a free pass. That doesn't feel good. This is why, my solution back in 2016, which I still think is a really reasonable one, which is make student loans dischargeable through bankruptcy like they once were. Once upon a time they were. Under George W. Bush, they got rid of that, and that's when costs exploded. My first semester in college, it was like $800 a semester. $800 at a major 4-year university. And people are like, oh, you're getting a deal because like go down the street to UC and it's $1,300 a semester. Like UC Merced. It's like, wow, man, it's so much cheaper to go to Fresno State. Now it's like $800 a semester. It's like we're paying $5,000 a semester. The UC we're paying $10,000 a semester. It's like it gets more and more. Plus you have all those increased living expenses that go with it. And if you've ever dealt with student loan people, they always basically tell you to take out the maximum amount. That's the business. So the entire business is built on taking money from the poor. The 18-year-olds are poor. They have no assets when you lend them. No credit card company would lend an 18-year-old money. But that's the way it works, right? No responsibility for the universities who don't give them an education. No responsibility for the lenders who lend an 18-year-old money. All that kind of stuff. So anyway, people tend to leapfrog. Is it just to actually forgive someone's debt? That's a question that we need to answer. Is it just to force a jubilee? Maybe it's not. Maybe it is because of who you're forcing the jubilee on. Maybe it's not just because other people have paid it off. Maybe it's only just on a per person basis that you can determine in a court of law, like with bankruptcy proceedings, where somebody actually lacks the assets, lacks the income, lacks the ability to service the debt, in which case they have to be relieved from it or they can't live. Debt is like an anchor around your neck. If you have, I know people whose student loan payments are like $1,000 a month. There's people who don't make $1,000 a month. I used to live on $1,000 a month, right? So if somebody's making $2,000, maybe they're working a full-time job, but it's like at Starbucks and they're making $2,000 a month. They have to pay $1,000 in debt to nothing. To not. It's not like paying a house payment where at 30 years you completely own the house. You can't gain equity in a degree that you already have or that you dropped out of school for. So for those people, like it's impossible for them to make any kind of economic progress because they just have no money. They have to, rent. They have to rent a half a bedroom from someone. That's not, it's not feasible for them to continue servicing it. Or they simply can't make the payment because they have to spend all of their $2,000 on housing and food, right? And what you see is, oh, this person has an iPhone or something like that. It's like a lot of people forget that like access to the internet is essential for most people in the modern economy. If you don't have a phone or some kind of access to that, you're shut out from large parts of the economy. I saw a guy on the plane the other day with an iPhone 5. It's like, man, I forget you can still use those old technologies. Perhaps they should. Perhaps they shouldn't have an iPhone, but it's probably part of their phone bill. You might get it free. Who knows, right? So anyway, that's my whole spiel on that. A certain Catholic intellectual who should not be named wrote a book about capitalism and usury. So here's the simple definition of usury is that you're paying for the use of a thing, but not the thing. So then it's basically a rent. It's charging interest on rent. So if you make a house payment, you're charging interest on an asset, a house. Okay? So you don't get the use of your money, that's why you lent it. And so you charge interest as a way to get something for letting someone else use your money. But that person bought a thing, and if everything falls apart, if you're the lender, you can have the house. The house is what was bought. So you can be made whole by acquiring the asset and paying the difference back to the debtor or whatever. So if the debtor has $50,000 in equity and he stops paying, you take the house, you give the equity back to the debtor, or you figure that out, and then you're made whole because you have the house. You can't do that with a student loan. You can't seize somebody's English degree and be made whole. So it's usury because it's not based on anything. You're paying someone for the use of the money, but not the thing itself. A degree doesn't exist. You can have a diploma on the wall. That's a piece of paper. You can't take out a loan on your degree. You can't acquire equity in your degree. You can't transfer it to someone else. It's not property. It's not a thing. It's not owned. It's none of those things. So it's usury by definition. I'm not saying that like there should be zero loans that are personal. Like, you charge something on your credit card, you should pay it off, right? But people get their credit cards discharged in bankruptcy all the time because they can't pay them off. They use the credit card to buy beer and then they can't pay it off. Bankruptcy is like, well, you don't have any money. You're not making any money. You have no assets. Sorry, credit card company, you got to eat the loss. You got to eat some of that loss. All right. Yeah, I was shamed for not going into debt by school too. I had people that's like, how could you not go on this fancy trip to Europe? I'm like, I don't want to take out debt to do that. I saw what debt did to people. It's like, no, it's not realistic that you should be able to go through school without acquiring any debt. I did it. I paid for the GI Bill that I never ended up using or needing, yet I can't get a refund for something I never used. I should be able to at least get my money back. Oh, that's a whole nother discussion. It's like you get like a college allowance as part of your military service, and if you don't use it, the value of that just kind of disappears, It's like, can I get some of this value you promised me? Nah, you have to spend 4 years. Okay, great. Not everybody wants to waste their time at a university, right? Anyway, let's play some games and then we'll chat some more. Adrian, I've thought about making a YouTube channel with one of those things I do being a Gen Z, doing Let's Play of classic retro games. Thoughts? It could be a lot of fun. You never know. You can try it out. The thing is, it takes time to like build up an audience, and you have to kind of think about like what's gonna like kind of pop. You can do like Gen Z reacts or something. Gen Z reacts to Super Mario Brothers. That you might get some clicks with some videos like that. All right. Let's get this set up here. There it is. There you go. Man, it is hot in here. I might turn on the AC in a minute. Takes a minute for like the little card to load up here. I think we're in the slums. I went to public school for free while my friend got to go to the private art school with lots of good industry connections. I don't know if art schools actually have industry connections anymore, but okay. He didn't go for free. It's paid for by taxpayers. What's up, Brian? We're just talking about student debt and how people forget the meaning of words as soon as you start talking about student debt, like forgiveness. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Well, I can't hit these guys. All right, fire. Naughty little thieves. Stolen either? Man, I want to reload my game now. Oh, yeah, Star Wars, the original Star Wars movie had a 45th anniversary. That's kind of cool. I got no games. Yeah, the Mammon Mob. I mean, people assume they're immune to propaganda, and they're not. I mean, it took me a long time to stop and really evaluate student debt. And I really started doing it back in 2016 because people were talking about it a lot. Now, I don't believe the Democrats will ever solve the debt crisis because they're paid for by the big universities. That guy in the pipe's a weird one. No matter what you ask him, the only answer is or ah. I don't think there's anything to do in this area yet. So let's see. So we'll move on. I think we can just skip all this for now. Have you talked the Texas shooting? No, I probably don't want to because I don't want to get banned from YouTube right now. Huh? The hell are you? The hell do you think you're talking to? what a drag. You want to go to that store in Sector 6 again? Can I get past these guys? Great, a limit break. Limit break. No, maybe I can't go this way yet. The Democrats are proposing debt forgiveness, which would only incentivize their high prices. Yeah, I wouldn't say that. They're proposing just paying universities directly more often. They'll never get rid of the debt because the debt makes money for them. You know, they'll never get rid of the source of the problem, which is the universities themselves. This is the one. Won't you help him? Listen, I'm no doctor. No, I guess not. Hey, that man has a tattoo. I think it was the number 2. What if there's something I could do with him? I don't remember. You can go out this way. I know there's some like shops here. I can't get past those guys. It's been a while. Yeah, you guys got to turn off Fox News. Fox News is. Oh wait, I already went here. Wait, is there I think there's a materia up over here. There's some materia right here. Check this out. If I can get this. Cover. Either. All right. There's anything else here? I think not. I think we can. I'm not sure if there's anything in the house. We already talked to. Yeah, who watched? I'm home, Mom. I don't know who watches TV in 2022. But stop it. This is Cloud, my bodyguard. Bodyguard? You mean you were followed again? Are you alright? You're not hurt, are you? I'm alright. I had Cloud with me. Thank you, Cloud. So what are you going to do now? Is Sector 7 far from here? I want to go to Tifa's bar. Is Tifa a girl? Yeah. A girlfriend? Girlfriend? How do I say? No way or yeah, that's right? I'm going to say no way. No way! We're doing Team Eris. You don't have to get that upset. Well, that's nice. Let's see, Sector 7, I'll show you the way. You gotta be kidding. Why do you want to put yourself in danger again? I'm used to it. Used to it? Well, I don't know. Getting help from a girl. A girl? What do you mean by that? You expect me to just sit by and listen after hearing you say something like that? Mom, I'm taking Cloud to Sector 7. I'll be back in a while. But dear, I give up. You never listen once you've made up your mind. But if you must go, why don't you go tomorrow? It's getting late now. Yeah, you're right, Mom. Eris, please go and make the bed. I like the big CRT TV they have on the little console there. That's cool. Remember if there's like little things hidden in here. I think there's a couple, but I don't remember. That glow in your eyes. You're from Soldier, right? Yeah, rather, I used to be. I don't know how to say this, but... Would you please leave here tonight without telling Eris? Now look at this TV. Takes back. A little bit of screen tearing here for some reason. You need to go through Sector 6 to get to Sector 7. Sector 6 is a little dangerous, so you'd better get some rest tonight. Cloud. Good night. Oh, man. I mostly play retro games these days. Yeah, I mean, here's something to remember about old games. Old games are not less fun because they came out previous year. I haven't slept in a bed like this in a long time. Oh, yeah. Ever since that time. Little flashback. My, how you've grown. I bet the girls never leave you alone. Not really. TV feels like a relic from CR2 days. I like over-the-air stuff. Me, TV, and Comet. They show Star Trek. I'm worried about you. There are a lot of temptations in the city. I'd feel a lot better if you just settled down and had a nice girlfriend. I'm alright. You should have an older girlfriend. One that'll take care of you. I think that would be the perfect type for you. I'm not interested. I must have fallen asleep. Sector 7's past Sector 6. I should be alright by myself. I can't go back in and look in the room. These like pre-rendered 3D rooms were like really cool back in the day. Cloud, I thought the Turks came back. Get some rest. Oh yeah, I have to not run. Are you familiar with Crimson Skies? I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe? Yeah, the reason why old games are good because they respect the player and their time. They're not trying to manipulate you and into spending more time. They're just designed to be fun. Alright, here we go. Just have to walk. Push you to walk instead of run. Oops. Gotta press circle. There we go. Do not remove the memory card. Fox News is its own kind of propaganda, too. Gotta remember that. What was in here? Does this guy sell stuff? I don't think he sells anything I need. Ah. I think you can give that guy a potion, but I don't remember how to do that. Oh, there's Eris. You're up bright and early. How could I ask you to go along when I knew it would be dangerous? Are you done? You have to go through the slum in Sector 6 to get to Tifa's 7th heaven. I'll take you there, come on. Shrug. No, there are gatekeepers, but the gatekeepers pick trash games. You know? Big publishers particularly, it's like, will this make me as much money as FIFA? No? Okay, well your entire studio is now shut down. And we'll hire some kids to make a remake of your game that you spent. I'm thinking of Dead Space here. It's like, we'll hire some kids to remake your game later. Oh, we gotta attack the house. They had this in the arena in the remake. It was pretty funny. Like you fought a house, and it was just a giant house that ran around and ate you and did all kinds of dumb stuff like that. It was really funny. I'm heading to Mass. Have a good stream. Well, bless you. And thanks for stopping by. Man. I'm gonna have to do some healing here. Braver. There we go. I don't know if I'll do Kenobi. I haven't done any Star Wars since the Rise of the Skywalker. Let's do it. I gotta walk up this thing. All right, here we go. If Johnny Depp wins his lawsuit, do you think there will be a trickle-down effect? Thanks. I guess this is goodbye. You gonna be all right going home? Oh no.